There you go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves. Doc,
Hello, this is Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central.
Terry,
Terry Van Horn, International Website Builders. That's it for today. Again.
and I'm Bill Slosky. I'm the author of SEO by the Sea and the director of SEO research for Go Fish Digital. We were talking in the green room before we started the show today, and the topic of Google Plus came up. I'm sad to see it go. I miss it. I like the flexibility and freedom it offered. You weren't limited to the number of characters you used, and you could actually write some stuff out. I enjoyed sometimes sitting down and just starting to type and getting an idea in my head, a few of them strung together and writing something a little bit longer, which you can't do with a Twitter. And doesn't seem to work well with Facebook.
Nothing much well on Facebook. You have to pay to have it work on Facebook.
You know, one of the things that I really liked about Google Plus was the fact that you could build your circles so that you could kind of categorize the people that you were following. So you had your PPC folks, you had your SEM folks, you had your social folks, you had family, whoever it might be that was on there, and you could go to a particular group and see the resources you were connected to, following in that circle. That was nice, and that's something that I haven't seen anybody else offer anything similar to that. You can't categorize.
To me, it was a communities more than anything. And like you said, the ability to categorize. And for me, it's about organizing things so it's easy to find stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to say.
I do have about 30 or so lists in Twitter on specific topics. So I can go to those, and if I want to look at something about
True. Yeah.
machine learning or SEO or San Diego, I can look at those lists and go through them. And I like the categories.
Yeah, that's true. I'd forgotten you could do lists on Twitter. I don't go to Twitter just because stuff, it disappears so fast. They call it a fire hose for a reason. I mean, if it's been 2 hours, forget it. Unless you got half a day, you're not going to find it. Or if you remember who said it or posted it. But it's just so much noise that.
Yeah, I had only a few hundred followers. I mean, people that I followed, and that was because if you were doing that kind of stuff, you were gone pretty quick. To me, I don't care what you had for dinner. That's why I'm not on Instagram.
Well, it's even like I followed Bill Slosky, okay, but if Bill posted something a couple hours ago that I just remembered, I didn't get a chance to read that yet. I want to go back and look at it. There's been 3,000 posts since there. He's so far down the stream, I'll never find it. And if he's been posting actively today, it may be 30 or 40 tweets down his stream. And if I don't remember who posted that article on SEJ, now I'm really out of luck.
Yeah. You know what? I quit using Twitter, I remember now, for the main reason was I was using TweetDeck to manage it all.
So
they bought it and put the kibosh on it.
Yeah, I was too. And I never liked Hootsuite.
Hootsuite's a piece of, not something I would use either.
I don't know why.
I like things that work.
I don't know what in the world possessed them to shut TweetDeck down. I mean, it was a very good app. It worked really well.
It made people didn't have to go to the site. Their thing was to make you go to the internet and get it off their site. That's what they wanted. They tried to shut all of those down. And because most of them were not worth using. They were the same as using the internet one. When they bought TweetDeck and shut it down, that meant you had to pretty much use the website. And that's why I quit using Twitter pretty well. I set up Paper LI on it, which I follow 300 good people. If you watch that, you'll find some really good stuff in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That I follow Bill and, well, I don't follow a lot. Most people I think are not worth following. I don't care what they have to say. I don't have to hear what everybody on the internet is saying. I'd rather keep it down to a manageable amount.
Yeah.
Or I know what I'm getting is the real deal. Not, you know.
Some of the drama that
it was raining today and this happened. So, you know, that's why it happened. That's why it's raining.
But Terry, where do you get your cute cat pics?
I'm not a big cat lover. So.
Yeah, they're fun to kick.
So some of the drama that takes place on Twitter and some of the misinformed opinions about it, see people coming up with statements about how copyright should work. And it's like, no. So Wall Street Journal runs an article about how Google is copying or scraping content from Genius. And Genius laid a trap for people doing that. They used straight abbreviation apostrophes and curved apostrophes to differentiate their copies of lyrics from other people's copies of lyrics. So Google has licensed the use of lyrics from copyright holders, from the musicians, and they're paying a company called Lyrics Finder money for copies of those lyrics that they can put on their website. And Lyrics Finder is including lyrics from Genius, because if you go to the publishers who distribute records from musicians, they don't always provide words to the songs, even though they're working directly with the musicians who are writing the songs. And the people who write the songs don't always provide words to their songs either. There's some musicians who will release records and not release the words.
Yeah, but why are they paying lyrics, whatever, when most artists are, for like through the radio and stuff, there's another organization that collects the money for artists. I forget the name of it.
Like Lyrics Finder does.
Like a union. No, it's not a union. It's a really old.
MPAA, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. They've been around a long time.
But they do sheet music. They publish sheet music.
Yeah, but when a radio station or plays album or a record or a song, they have to pay this fund that pay. That's how the artist gets paid.
And they channel the payment onto the artist.
Right.
Yeah.
There are multiple companies that do that. Lyrics Finder is one of them.
Oh, okay.
You pay for a license through Lyrics Finder, and they pass money along to the musicians who wrote the songs.
Yeah, but it makes more sense to have one organization rather than a whole bunch. Most people can barely count it sometimes. You know.
It's free enterprise at work.
I'm going to do some research on that because I'm actually looking at a project. A buddy of mine, my oldest friend actually, is a musician, and he just started. He's retired like myself, and keep the income up a little bit higher. He's working in restaurants and stuff, so I built him a website and tried to get an app to do a schedule for his, like where he's playing, etc.
Yeah.
They're not a decent one around. Like, I mean, everyone was pure garbage or didn't work the way it was supposed to. So I've started kind of building something out for him. And so this would be interesting as part of that.
Do you remember an old app called upcoming.org, or a website called upcoming.org? It was purchased by Google, and they pretty much let it die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but I know there's been a few. Right now, there's 2 or 3, and all of them, I mean, none of them I could get the stuff to work. And the customer service was, let's say, the stuff still doesn't work.
When upcoming.org was running, it worked well.
Oh, okay.
And you could input your events and schedule them, and people could receive them through an RSS feed.
Yeah. Was it based on a WordPress plugin or?
No, it was before WordPress.
Oh, okay. This is what I'm looking at.
WordPress. Early days of WordPress.
Yeah. I'm looking at a WordPress plugin, and I think you could also, well, what I've seen is a few have tried to also include venue information, etc.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at that as something I might be interested in looking deeper at. I didn't know that it was that open for that kind of stuff.
It is. With the lyrics, so there's one musician who comments on Twitter who spoke up on this and said, in some cases, it's the publishers who are providing lyrics to groups like Lyrics Finder, and they're copying sources like Genius, even though they could just ask the musicians because they work with them. Okay. Like a Sony Music or something like that.
Well, even if it was Lyrics Finder that actually scraped Genius, the lawsuit against Google is still misguided because, first of all, anybody who wants to file suit against Google, to me, that's like a flea crawling up an elephant's leg with a rape on his mind. These guys got more lawyers than my dog has fleas. I don't need to try to go up, shinny up that pole. Thank you.
Right. And people have been arguing that Genius's use of straight and curved apostrophes to hide codes in their lyrics, so that they used the phrase "caught underhanded," stuff like that in the lyrics.
Yeah.
It's like Lyrics Finder doesn't know that you've marked up your stuff, and somebody's making an argument that adding those codes and those apostrophes makes those works a derivative copyright work.
Bullshit.
Derivative copyright work is when you do things like translate or work into another language, or you add guitar tabs and stuff like that so people can play it more easily.
But there's never any shortage of folks in social media that are quick to spout off about something they don't know shit about.
Right.
And copyright law is something that there's damn few people really understand of the folks that are talking about it.
You don't even have to have copyright on your website.
If you make something that's considered a derivative work, you need to get permission from the actual copyright holder first, and second, you need to do something creative.
Yeah, you got to add something unique to it.
And you're not adding value by adding straight apostrophes.
Yeah.
Because most cases, most people have no idea that those are even there.
So did Did the company that used the coding, what were they called?
Genius.
Well, they're not geniuses, really.
Okay. Well, first off, there's the first problem right there, eh?
I see that as using the term pretty broadly.
It was a clever idea
Yeah.
encoding those in a way that they could be found and tracked if
Well, it would be like a watermark on a photograph.
right.
Right?
What?
It could serve the same purpose.
Well,
Or
except
Make that photograph any more creative, though.
except that a watermark has some visibility, and what they did would have been all but invisible. You know, I mean, it was a clever idea. It's just that I think that if they have an attorney, he should have counseled them that you want to think about this. You know, where did Google get this stuff? This is prima facie evidence that it was on your site. It doesn't show the path to Google. And
Right.
Google, you know, it's common knowledge that Google does pay artists for those lyrics. So
There's no chain of
they have a robot tax.
there's no chain of custody as to the evidence,
yeah,
as to the source of that information.
yeah, a judge is going to basically tell them, sorry, but get off my docket.
If they have a robot tax stop, then Google could be they could be in with the group.
You mean in terms of like no index?
Right. If they had, say, for instance, a robot tax blocking Google from their website,
Except they rely on Google to index their site, so they don't.
then sorry.
Well, and on top of that, Google is under no legal obligation to observe that either.
Yeah, but they're still responsible for everything that they put out there.
No, but I mean, but Google can still go and index it if they want to.
That isn't actually protection.
I mean, they're
They're
people
still
who
responsible for it.
there are people who put stuff on websites that shouldn't be on there.
Oh
Like
yeah,
financial statements hidden in a folder that's unnamed.
Right. And if you, like, as soon as I heard that they allowed their site to be indexed, then they have, then, but if they had a robot tax in place to stop indexing, that is their intent, that they don't want to be in the search engine. And if they say to Google, we don't want that in your engine and it's exclusive to them, then I think they have a bit of a case.
You're copying our material, but they're also making the claim that you're scraping our content and republishing it without permission.
If they had a robot text up, that would be one complaint. But
I disagree, Terry. A robot's text gives you no legal protection whatsoever. The fact that it says no index, Google is not under any legal obligation to obey that.
But Genius is making the argument that Google is scraping their content. Well, they're asking Google to scrape their content.
Exactly.
Having no index.
That's what I mean. That, it's a different story when you say don't index, because nothing works if they can ignore that and be free of the law.
So Google's displaying lyrics that are copies of the lyrics from Genius with the straight and curved apostrophes. And Google got those from somebody other than Genius?
Then somebody else is scraping.
They have a right to display those lyrics because they paid for a license to display them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you can't tell because they didn't put up a robot text. So who's to say where they came from?
Well, they certainly originated there.
Yes.
But
and beyond that, you can't say who indexed it.
Exactly.
Or where they came from. Because Google, it could have not even come from the places they said, because Google indexes so many sites.
Well, to me, Google would be totally harmless in this case because they bought them from a legitimate, vendor of lyrics who takes care of the rights of the artist. Okay, so
Right.
Google to me should be held harmless. Now, the folks at I forget the
Different
name.
than a pawn shop that buys stolen goods and the cops come in and find them. They're still responsible for what's in their store.
Yeah.
That's my point, Doc. You're
But-
probably right, but that's the way I look at it, right? If
Yeah, but-
they had a no index, then they have the right to say you should be watching that you don't get our content. And if we complain, you should pull it down immediately.
So the straight and the curved apostrophes are clever, but they're not proof of anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's no different than a watermark or whatever, other than I don't think you can remove a watermark.
Oh yeah.
I think you can.
Oh, you can? Well, then.
Oh yeah. Very easily.
So it's like a key in the lock, eh? It only
There's
keeps
lots of programs out there now that'll do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Only keeps honest people honest.
Exactly. Kind of like a lock on your bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that though. That's interesting. I just, like I say, sicken my lawyer on Google. Yeah, let me know how that works out for you,
Yeah,
buddy.
It's
But
like,
you know what? They got what they wanted, which is a lot of press. And
Well, and you know what? That may well have been their primary goal. We'll drop. I'll go drop a couple C notes on my lawyer, and we'll get some great publicity.
Yeah, lawyer could have maybe even owned part of the company. It's free then,
Yeah, because they are getting some press out of it.
for sure.
and us versus the giant Google, feel sorry for us. Yeah. Share the news about how bad Google's being to us.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
Google's
very
always a popular target to kick. It's funny, a lot of us in our community, we spend a lot of time belly aching about Google. But did you hear all the whining and whinging this morning about the calendar being down? Everybody was up in arms. Google Calendar's down, and I same thing. I had a seminar, a webinar I was supposed to watch this morning that I couldn't, and I had it set it up in my calendar so I'd have the link saved there, and I get a 404. I said, yeah, we bellyache about them a lot, but not only have we gotten to the point where we depend on them more than is probably healthy, they've also provided a lot of good service.
until they don't.
Well, until they don't, yeah. Google Plus is another case in point. But like Google Docs, it's nice to not have to pay $90 a year to buy Windows 365 because I can do a Word document on Google Docs. Okay, but I hate Google Docs, so I'd rather pay the $90.
Yeah, and my preference, I would take Office or almost anything over the mail client for Gmail. That is, I don't know. It's an abomination. It's like, let's do everything different. So you have to, you don't even have a folder where you can move stuff. Like, I used it for a couple of weeks and it was one of the good things about getting fired.
That's why I use a client. So, Outlook or Thunderbird. Now I can do it the way I want. I can have my folders and archive the stuff in my schedule, not theirs. One thing that has pissed me off though about Gmail is I set up for IMAP because when I pull my stuff into my client, I don't want it disappearing in the cloud until I say I want it to disappear. Right. And every now and then it gets swapped from IMAP to POP3. And I find this out because my client's saying, you need, we can't get to your email account. Your Gmail account is not accessible. What have we got, a password issue or what? Come to find, I go in there and find out that it's set for IMAP. When I go to Google, it says it's set up for POP3. Well, why has it worked for the last 18 months as an IMAP then? I haven't changed my client. Something changed. It was you assholes. And why in the world I'm sure that it's not deliberate. I don't know how you do something like that accidentally, though. That's a change that almost has to be a switch thrown deliberately. I wonder, are they changing the people that are running on POP3? They changing them to IMAP?
Yeah, I didn't care for it when I used it.
I don't like webmail in general. It's just I've got a lot of email addresses, and it's just a whole lot easier to go to one place on my system and check them all.
You ever seen the webmail for Outlook?
The webmail, no, I don't. When I use Outlook, I use it on my machine.
For mobile. When I had a server, I used that for mobile people who wanted to be able to access email locally. It was almost exactly the same as Outlook.
No, I haven't looked at it. I've never seen it. I rarely check email. If my phone tells me I've got some email, I go to my desk and look at it. Like somebody calls you, they say, "Hey, turn on NBC." So I go into the living room and I turn on the TV set. I'm old school, bro.
I like Gmail better on mobile than desktop.
It's probably set up for mobile.
It's set up for mobile.
Likely, yeah.
And Outlook on mobile isn't too bad either. I'm not sure that I prefer the one on desktop. Maybe.
You using the Outlook with Skype and everything integrated into it?
No.
So when I want to email somebody, when I pull it up, it'll tell me if they're on Skype.
Yeah.
So it's all integrated.
Shortly after that integration took place is when I had some problems with some update caused me some issues with Outlook. And I out of desperation, I had to do something, so I pulled in Thunderbird and threw all my accounts up on Thunderbird. But yeah, that was nice. And I used to hate Outlook years ago when it was relatively new. It was kind of clumsy and clunky and took up a lot of resources, and they've improved it tremendously.
Yeah, when you combine it with the Exchange server,
yeah,
really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice workable system. I really ought to make time to go back to it because I kind of like having the calendar integrated too. And like you say, the Skype issue is nice. It's not the
never been a big proponent of calendars.
Well, I like them because if I've got a client call scheduled, I can do it on Outlook or Google Plus. And today's issue was an issue. I had calls scheduled and I couldn't see them because the one calendar I had them, the one place that never goes down, right?
I write that stuff in the invoice.
I just
every morning when I start to work.
I just need to get myself another stack of these Post-it notes, stick them on my monitor.
Yeah, you're old school. I bet you still have a Rolodex.
I have it, but it's out in my tool room.
Mine hasn't been. It's probably got an inch of dust on it.
That's about where mine is. But I got an awful lot of names and addresses in there I don't want to lose, so I threw it in the box.
I sort of gave up on my Rolodex and Post-it notes when I left the court. When I stopped working for them.
But I still carry business cards too, so old habits.
Go Fish buys me business cards. I don't really use them.
I'm glad. I bet you they're happy to hear that.
They're handy. What you do, Bill, you turn them over and you write the appointments to keep track of shit when Google Calendar goes down. Save on Post-it notes.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I have a website. People can use a contact form there.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier that way.
Well, I'm always looking for ways to stay organized because
I found the best one, Doc. Retire.
actually that's not a bad plan. I'll probably do that the day I die, though.
I'll keep working a little bit, but I'm glad I don't have to deal with some things anymore.
I look at it like this, Terry. My wife is on occasion is close to strangling me because since I have my office in the house, she's got to put up with me a whole lot more than she signed up for. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
and if I didn't have this monitor in front of me and a keyboard to keep me out of her hair at least a few hours a day, she'd probably put a bullet in my brain. And it might not be unjustified.
Was there a time during your marriage where you worked outside the house, had to commute?
Well, yeah, and I've had offices, and in fact, the last job when I was a consultant, a business consultant, I was flying out for 2 weeks at a time, come back for a weekend, gone for 2 weeks, back for a weekend for, I was gone half the year that way.
Yeah.
And that was what kind of broke the camel's back for me, as my daughter was getting ready to turn 13, and I was hardly ever home to see her, and I thought, I need to find some way to be at home a little bit more. That's what pushed me into working online. But yeah, I've usually been officed out of the house, officed elsewhere.
Yeah.
And until that last couple of years of consulting, I enjoyed that because, it's nice to have some interaction with folks. And when I did have to travel for my job, I enjoyed traveling. Of course, this was pre 9/11, so there's a lot of the joy of flying has gone out of it now that it's always a 4-hour exercise just to get to the gate.
Yeah.
I'd rather drive to Las Vegas than take a free flight,
There was a time when you could just walk to the gate your flight was departing from. You didn't have to go through.
Yeah, and your family could walk up to the door with you and stand at the window and watch you board the plane.
Yeah.
Now you got six different gates you got to go through and get groped, and like I said, I'd rather drive 4 or 5 hours than even have a free flight. Just more hassle than it's worth.
Yeah, it was part of the attraction of looking for a conference to go to in San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, avoid some of that. But never a day goes by when you don't see one of our cohorts is flying from LA to New York or from Portland to Miami. And, folks like Aleda, I don't know how, God, Aleda spends more time in the air than she does on the ground. And she's hitting 18 or 20 conferences a year, But, God, she must be racking up the miles. I bet she's got a lot of first-class upgrades banked up.
I bet you're probably right. The idea of being able to go to a conference that's 35 miles away.
That's intriguing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what was motivating me too here about 3 years ago when I was trying to set up that conference down here.
Yeah.
10-minute drive into town,
Yeah, that would have been convenient.
Yeah, one of these days I'll do what Terry's doing. Just cash it in and sit back and count my money. It won't take long. It's going to be a real quick count.
They pay you pretty good for being born here. So.
The only problem with Canada is you got those shitty neighbors to your south. Yeah, it's a damn shame. It was a decent neighborhood when you first moved in there, wasn't it, Terry? There was the property values.
Things will get better.
I think so too.
I'm hopeful.
Can't get any worse. I mean, you can't get any worse.
Pretty much the only direction you can go in, eh?
Yeah.
You have to go through some tough times for the better times to stand out.
Make you appreciate what you got.
Yeah.
When's the term up?
His current term is up in 2020. He'll actually go out like in January of 2021.
So next year will be an election year. That should be a laugh riot.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
If they can't make a intelligent decision as to people to oppose him, we may have 4 more years.
Yeah, we could get him till the 2024 election.
Well, at least you know that's the end of it, of course. Knowing him, he'll try and make it more years.
He's been saying that.
He had actually said it recently in a national interview that if the people don't want me to leave, I may not.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, you will. You may leave in handcuffs, but you'll leave.
Will help you out.
Wow.
I think the guy honestly believes that it was like he sold Stephanopoulos the other day. Article 2 lets me do anything I want. I think he believes that.
He's got a different perspective of
you think?
reality than the rest of us.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There goes my blood pressure again, just thinking about it.
You can't let it get to you. Say, we need bad presidents to make the country better.
Well, then we're going to be pretty fucking good when he gets done with this.
Will anybody even contest him, or is he going to definitely
run again?
As
far as a Republican candidate, you mean?
They do have primaries. They will have some other candidates from his party run. They may not do too well.
I'll be right back. I got something downstairs I got to take care of.
Has anyone ever been lost the primaries when they're president?
Don't know.
Probably not.
In most cases, they're often, if they want to run again, they're often given a lot of leeway to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like the Republicans have a lot of alternatives. Got to watch what you wish for with them guys.
I think there was at least one who would have run again if he hadn't passed away. I think we would have seen someone like a John McCain run against Trump. I think there's some other people who will try to run against Trump who aren't too well known or are very much liked.
Yeah. Anybody who's well known, I'm betting that they're thinking, I'll just wait. Because probably the Republicans are going to lose the election, whether Trump is the guy or not.
When you have people like Sarah Palin as potential alternatives.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. But when the Democratic Party, the Democrats choose people who nobody likes, you have a chance of Trump winning again.
Yeah. But I don't know. Well,
Sorry
I guess
about that.
some people must have liked Trump or he wouldn't have got elected the first time. And those people are probably going to vote for him again.
Well, I think a lot of them had some thought that he might actually be the person who wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, and stuff like that. Now we know that it's possible he can't even read a book.
Much less write one. Yeah. Well, I think too, a lot of it was the fact that an awful lot of the populace was just fed up with the fact that Washington in general is just there to get rich.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted some change, and they thought, but they're saying, you remember, Bill, when Ross Perot declared twice. Again, and Ross Perot was a successful businessman. He was a prick and a half, but he was a damn good businessman. And they wanted to change, and they felt like if anybody could, balance the budget and make Congress do its job, it would be a strong manager.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was what made Trump attractive to people too. They thought he was going to drain the swamp. He was going to clean things up and make things profitable,
And television did do a good job of making him well known and somewhat. They made him look like he was competent.
Yep.
Yeah.
We deserved what we got. Now, if we could just unget it, call it a lesson well learned, and like you say, maybe things will get better.
Yeah, but times have changed. Many years ago, the best people went into government. Now nobody's got half a brain goes into government.
Well, I don't know. There's an awful lot of senators and representatives that go in with a net worth of $600,000 or $700,000 and come out with $15 or $20 million.
Oh,
Gotta wonder how you do that on a $116,000 a year salary. I'd like to read that book.
Well, also now, a lot of the politicians go to school to become politicians, basically.
Yeah. Well, the majority of them are attorneys, on paper.
That's always been the way, though.
But most of them have only practiced briefly. Very few of them have. I should say very few. A few of them have no litigation practice whatsoever. They've never been in a courtroom as an attending attorney. They were a corporate attorney, or they were handling, whether it be family law or whatever. They're not litigators.
Having worked in a courthouse for 14 years gave me firsthand experience of the hell that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't necessarily want to practice law. You don't want to do it every day.
Yep.
Plus, you see the politicians make the real money.
Some really tend to do pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I was reading of a case. I think it was it Strom Thurmond, I think. he had a net worth of like $330,000, and more than half of that was his wife's property. Okay, when he first joined the Senate,
Yeah.
and he was worth something like $37 million when he got out. Now, when he first started, his salary was like $69,000 a year, and it was over twice that by the time he retired. But still, what something like 38 years or 36 years, I think he was in the Senate, and the guy was, millionaire many times over. Speeches and papers and just sitting on boards and all sorts of things. Some of which are very harmless, but there's an awful lot of activities that aren't harmless too that go. There's a lot of I don't think there's that many cases that could technically be proven to be graft, but there's an awful lot of very questionable activities. A lot of it's investments. I know of one senator from Texas who is a failed presidential candidate recently. That was he went to I forget which board. They asked him to come on a board, and he made a ridiculous request of a board salary. Like $500,000 or something. And they said, "What? No. Well, it doesn't have to be in cash. I take it in stock." And he did. He got it in stock, just for sitting on their board. And every year he gets a few more shares, that he sits on that board. And it's worth millions. And it's good for the company. To them, it's a write-off. Of course, the reputation this guy's got now, I don't know that any company would be really proud to say he's on our board, but although in retrospect, had he gotten the presidency, we might be better off.
I'm seeing some politicians who are making some noise in the legislature that isn't unintelligible. They have minds that work well.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're not all total loss. And while she may be a flash in the pan, and she's probably getting more press than a freshman should, AOC is looking pretty good because she's asking some tough questions and getting some good answers. I like her.
Yeah.
And she's not short on testicular fortitude at all. I'm sure there's an awful lot of folks there in the halls of the Senate that are not pleased to see her walking down the hall towards them.
I think as a former New York City bartender, she's had to put up with a lot.
You think?
Yeah. I think that was a good preparatory career for politics.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of them that just their stomach flips over when their receptionist says it's Ocasio-Cortez on the line for you, sir. Oh, God. I love it.
I like the congressional meetings where she asks people questions that they definitely don't want to answer.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a tough little bird.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Buttigieg interviews, and I'm impressed with that guy.
Yeah.
He really handles himself well. Quick mind, well informed, I like his spoken ideas. You know, the ideals that he purports to have. I have no reason to doubt that they're sincere, but other than the fact that he's a politician. So, yeah. But you know, he went into office as mayor with some very radical ideas, and barely. For what I read, he basically won because the incumbent that he was up against, was such a farce that they voted in Buttigieg. They reelected him the second time in a landslide. They were everything he said he was going to do that everybody said that can't be done. That's stupid. That'll never work. He did. It worked like a champ. He turned Cedar Rapids around on several fronts, and really rejuvenated the city. And then they were tickled pink to get him a second time. So I don't know. I like him. I like Warren too. I'd be interested to see a ticket of Buttigieg and Warren. And I'm kind of thinking, well, I like him a little bit more than I like her in terms of platform. It would make sense to me that she ran for president, him as vice. Get him in there, let him do 8 years, and then let him run for president.
They asked her what she thought of Joe Biden as a running mate, and she said, well, he's been a vice president before. He did pretty good there.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you see her eyes sparkle when she said it? She knew that was a dig. That's the thing. I don't think that she would run with anybody as a vice. I think she has her sights set higher than that.
I think so too. Yeah.
And and I can kind of understand it because traditionally our vice presidents have been basically just a replacement in waiting in case we ever need one. They kind of have
They've been chosen as the person you don't want to be president.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody that if this guy should die, at least we got somebody in the wings that can step in for him. Although he won't know what the hell's going on because we're going to treat him like a mushroom for the next 4 years anyway. But
President Nixon, we're happy to call you president just as long as we don't have to have President Agnew.
Well, and you got to wonder how many of the folks that are really dragging their feet at the idea of an impeachment hearing are thinking, but Pence. A valid concern. I'm not really wild about that guy for dog catcher.
Yeah. I'm not sure that he could catch a dog if he had to.
Well, he'd probably try to convert it into a cat.
Probably.
Conversion being one of his favorite topics. Well, we're talking a lot of SEO today.
We did get a little bit in.
Excuse me.
We talked about Google scraping.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Google scraping lyrics. Though we were sort of defending them.
Well, fair is fair.
Yeah.
There's enough stuff to throw legitimate rocks at them for that I don't think we need to make stories up about them. That's one there. I think that they're probably walking on the right side of the path.
It's sort of an indictment of the practices in the music industry with musicians who will release albums and not bother to make sure that the lyrics are written down somewhere and that can get distributed to people who are licensing those.
Yeah, it would almost seem as if there's some sort of a school of thought that they think it's a bad idea to publish lyrics or some advantage to it, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I know in the earlier days of rock and roll, back in the 70s, even before metal came out, it was sometimes I would sing along with a rock and roll song for 2 or 3 years before I actually found out I'd been understanding the lyrics wrong for the last 3 or 4 years. You know?
Had some bands who you just couldn't tell what the lyrics were,
Exactly, you know.
like the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even the band doesn't own the lyrics. The manager, the company owns them.
Well, in the earlier days of rock and roll, there was such an influx of new, young, innocent artists. A lot of the recording outlets made up new rules, and they flew. And some of those folks got roped into contracts that, yeah, they lost their rights. But I mean, you know, to me, if I was a recording artist, I would think that if I was a musician, it would be to my advantage to have the proper lyrics published, if not on the jacket of the album, then on my website, someplace where it was available, you know, because they're mine. You know, I own them. Whether I had somebody write them for me, and a lot of times, you know, it's not a musician. You got 5 or 6 people might be involved in the lyrics and the music and the score and, you know, the layout and all this. There's a lot of different players involved, but why keep? What possible advantage would there be to keep them under wraps? Doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure there is a articulable.
I can look into it. Interesting to me.
But it was amusing this morning seeing some of the sudden overnight self-proclaimed copyright experts spouting nonsense. And
Most people on the internet don't really understand copyright.
nope.
That's true.
I've been doing some work with GDPR since the beginning of last year, and I'm finding an awful lot of that there too. All these people that they're offering GDPR consulting services.
Yeah.
I saw one of them the other day. He was asked in a thread, and he was going back and forth. I mean, these 2 guys were back and forth, 5 seconds between post and response and question and response. They were right on top of it, and all of a sudden somebody, what does GDPR stand for? And it was 3.5 minutes before he came back and told him what it stood for. I said, well, you have to go Google it? But the guy was making asinine claims about GDPR, and you know, he was more than questionable already, and then he couldn't even say off the top of his head what it stood for. I said, okay, you know, your day in the sun's over. Go find another thread to troll.
You looked at the one that Facebook or not WordPress now includes?
That they're including where?
Well, when you lately every theme I've downloaded or WordPress, I'm not sure if it's in WordPress. The theme has a policy page that you can use.
Yeah, in the core they actually have. In fact, they have the ability now where if you get a request to edit or remove somebody's personal information, that's been built into the core for the last couple of, I think 5.0 is when it first hit the
but
core.
they have one where you can just answer questions and it'll make a proper GDPR document.
I haven't seen that. No.
It's a GDP. Yeah.
The policy statement. No.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were doing it.
With WordPress. Yeah. I've got it on every one of my websites now. I
just updated a couple. I'll have to take a look at that. I had not noticed that. No, because I did my own a long time ago, and I just modified that to suit GDPR and put it up on all my sites.
Yeah. it's like a framework to answer the questions, and
Cool.
you should be covered.
Yeah, I think it was 5.0 is when they started having the function in the back end to delete or modify private info. And I knew that they were working on something more, but I was not aware that they'd actually come out with that yet. Which is, I think that's good.
Policy statement, basically.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Gives you a framework.
Does it have the cookie policy included?
Yeah. Data retention, what happens. It covered most of what we have discussed in the past.
Super.
That's why I said I'm just going to use this, because probably the people at WordPress that put this together know more than I do.
I'll have to take a look at that this afternoon. No, I wasn't aware that they had done that much. That's great.
I may have a copy of one somewhere where I haven't filled it out or removed the parts I didn't use.
But it wasn't a plugin. It was actually part of
No, it was actually part of the WordPress.
Yeah. I'll have to take a look at that. That's good to
No,
hear.
it may even be so WordPress can cover themselves by saying, hey, we put a default page in. If they aren't using it, don't look at us.
Well, and there's that must have been some kind of muddy water, because some of the stuff that Automatic does could put them in a position of being a processor. And I could see them wanting to protect themselves.
Okay.
Although, historically they've been pretty good about trying to help the site owners and bloggers protect themselves too.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, for people who didn't really have the time or inclination to find out what they have to put in. This is the bare bones minimum that you should have.
GDPR in the European Union, that was a 2.5-year development process before they actually passed it. And then it had a 2-year moratorium before it would take effect. And it took effect May of 2018, May 25th, I think. And it was about April 1st of 2018 was the first I had ever heard of GDPR. And I don't even remember how I stumbled across it, but apparently somebody was probably just talking about, GDPR is coming in effect in a couple of months. What the fuck is GDPR? And I went and looked it up and found out. And holy shit, and I've got clients in the union. I was totally unaware of it. So I'm sure there's an awful lot of folks out there that are not site builders or digital marketers that still have not heard of it. And you can bet there's an awful lot of bloggers out there that have no clue about it, nor do they know that it now exists. Basically, GDPR is the law in California. Canada is soon to follow suit. Australia is legislating it now. Florida and Oregon and Colorado are very close to enacting it.
And there are websites from the U.S. that will not resolve in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them by choice, in fact.
Yeah.
But some of them have already run afoul and been warned off. But when I first started studying it and reading it and the requirements and all, it was very intimidating. It looked like it was going to be a nightmare. Now, for somebody like Amazon, who takes credit card information and has tens of thousands of visits a day, you're going to have to bring in some staff. Your training and your policies, internal policies, are going to have to be very intense. It could be a major thing to deal with.
Yeah.
They knew Google and Facebook were not going to pass. Well, they were. How long after that was passed did they get nicked for it? A couple of months. Google and Facebook were.
Well, Google, I suspected Google was such a tempting target that it was a major motivator in creating GDPR.
Probably it was, because all of those things in Europe are just indirect taxation.
But I think, so many times that the European Union told them, we don't like you doing this, we don't like you doing that this way. And Google basically thumbed their nose at them. So,
If you try to find what Google does with users' data, you can.
No.
If you try to find what Apple does with users' data, good luck.
yeah. Well, you can't even. There is a place where you can purportedly see what data Google holds on you.
Yeah.
And delete it. Okay.
That's the history, right?
Supposedly, yeah. And it's a lot more than just your browser history. I mean, there's
Well,
a
what about
lot.
the part they hang on to for the CIA?
Well, and locations, where your phone has logged in, even though you didn't consciously logged in. If it got within range at this point, your phone was logged. If they can identify that phone with you, you were logged. And I mean, it's kind of scary how much stuff is there that we don't think Google would have.
Well, in addition to the user location history, Google's been releasing patents on media consumption history.
Yep.
So they're keeping track of what movies you watch, what music you listen to, what concert tickets you buy.
It's also part of search. Like often I see you visited this. I saw one that actually said you visited this in 2013.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I checked mine here not too long ago, and they knew every online purchase I had made.
No, that was right in the search. The results had.
Oh yeah,
Years ago, and it said you were here on this date.
Yeah, I remember that.
You visited this page 3 times in the last year.
Yep.
Really interesting. Like they're keeping history on.
And they're gathering information today is a lot more sophisticated than it was then.
With the media,
they can learn a lot about me just from the pages that I keep going to.
with the media consumption history, you can ask Google. They say you can ask who is the actor in this movie, and they'll answer you with that's somebody you've watched other movies from in the past, like this movie on this day, and this movie on this day. So that may be a little bit more detailed answer that most people want.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the data that Netflix must have on people's TV watching?
Well, they got a lot on me, I can tell you that.
Me too.
I downloaded several months ago. I didn't realize you could, and I stumbled across the fact you could download your watch list of what your viewing list over the last 12 months. I watched 182 movies in 12 months.
So they're sending me emails saying giving me recommendations based on movies I've watched.
Yeah.
Did you watch this movie? And we just released it.
We bet you'd like this one too. Yeah.
That's good for the new editions, right? I found they often go by what you've looked at in the past, that you may be interested in this. And plus, any of mine that I've watched and are on my watch list, I get an email. Well, not actually me. My brother gets the emails.
I think that's useful. Yeah.
Now, the account was originally in his name, and then we're sharing an apartment, and then he moved away, and I just switched it into my name.
Yeah.
Put it on my cable bill. I think they were offering it free for 1 month, so I changed his over to mine.
Well, one of the things that struck me was I had gone online, and I think it was probably Amazon or it might have been Best Buy. I did a credit card purchase or something. But I also used that same credit card on my Google account. And they knew, obviously, because I browsed through Chrome to get there, they knew what I had done at Amazon. But basically, anywhere they could detect that card number, they would know what I did with it. and that's more than mildly concerning.
That's why I won't use air miles at grocery stores or none of that. No thanks. I don't want to give you all my data. Thank you.
It may be too late for that. That ship may have sailed, Terry.
No, if you don't ask for points, that's how they're tracking. They have no way to associate what I bought with anybody. Because I use a debit card too from a bank. So
I think I stopped going to stores where they used to ask me what my phone number was.
Oh, I tell them to fuck off. You ain't getting my email. You ain't getting my phone number.
yeah,
Here's my Green American folding. Take it, or I'll go someplace else.
Radio Shack was really bad for that.
No, they
You go in and buy a little adapter, and they'll say, "Yeah, what's your
the
address?"
only way we can look you up. Yeah, we need your phone
They
number.
refused to sell me because I wouldn't give them my address.
Yep. I had a friend who was a Radio Shack store manager, and it's true, at least at that point in time, this is probably 20 years ago, they actually used the phone number as your customer number in their system. And they had to track, every single transaction had to have a customer number. So he could not take your money and not get a phone number. In those days, of course, everybody had a phone. And, so what happens if you walk in there with a $10 bill and you want to buy an adapter and I don't have a phone? Well, all you got to do is invent a number and they'll sell it to you, which is what an awful lot of people do. My number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, okay. But
is that numbers?
But it's just a lot more information that exists online than most of us realize.
Yeah, I don't give out a lot.
But I've had them try to get a phone number. In fact, I had not too long ago. We walked into a store down in San Diego where they wanted just the zip code. And okay, I don't see any harm. There's probably 150,000 of us in that zip code here. 92102. Go for it, But the phone number, no. Email, no. Yeah, you got signed up at Radio Shack. You're going to get the next 16 years. You're getting every Tandy catalog ever published.
That's what it was. They wanted to send you the catalog, and they sent flyers through the mail too.
I figured for giving them my phone number, I was probably responsible for clearing 15 acres of trees. Ooh, we're past the hour there, buddy.
Yeah, I guess we
Time flies when you're having fun, eh?
close down. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Take care.
Bye all.